Welcome to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. We have got a special show tonight. I'm excited. This is going to be a fantastic show. Not only do you get yours truly and Benny the Book, but we have a special guest co-host tonight, a former person who came on the show a couple weeks ago. We're going to bring in Al Chester, former Florida A&M Rattler quarterback and current voice of the Rattlers in football and basketball. So let's bring Al Chester in. Al, how are you?
Les, glad to be with you, buddy. I'm great, man. I'm excited about the show tonight.
This is going to be good. We're going to
I'm
blow the
excited
top off
about the
this
show.
show, Al. We're going to blow the top off it. In fact, this episode we are going to be calling Showtime, and let's let everyone know why. We have three-time NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers guard number 4, Byron Scott, in the house. So let's bring Byron in. Byron.
What's up, guys?
Thanks for coming. Thanks for making time for us tonight on Swartz
What's up?
Talkin Sports.
What's up, Al? How you doing, brother?
All right, champ. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm blessed. I can't complain. Life is good.
Well, I appreciate it.
Good deal.
I appreciate Al coming on as the guest co-host, and Byron, obviously, this show is going to blow up. We're really excited to have you on. So without further ado, let's get it started. And I kind of want to go back to the beginning. You know, you grew up in the shadow of, the Forum in Inglewood. You're growing up, you're on, with a hard top, you're in the, you're on in the gym. Before you were a high school player and you were getting heavily recruited, you end up at Arizona State. We'll talk about it. Which player did you emulate? Who was the guy that you were like hitting the fall away saying, game winner, buzzer beater? Who was it?
Well, we all used to shoot in the backyard. I didn't have a hoop, so I had a trash can that I had to shoot in. And we all did the 3-2-1, game winner. And my guy was Bob McAdoo. I was a big time Bob McAdoo fan when he played with the Buffalo Braves. I wore number 11 from the time I was in junior high all the way up until I got to the NBA because of Bob McAdoo. Because I had never seen anybody at 6'11" shoot the ball with the range that he shot it with and the accuracy that he shot it with. And I was just enamored by that. So, at a very early age, I started wearing number 11 and just started pretending that I was Bob McAdoo in the backyard.
And people forget back then, I think Bob McAdoo was starting for the Buffalo Braves.
Correct.
I do remember that. That was a Braves guy. Now, you get into high school. Did you play any other sports besides basketball?
Yes, I did, Les. I played pretty much every sport. I played baseball, basketball, football. But when I got to my junior year in high school, the football coach told me you might want to stick to basketball, which was a great decision on my part.
Absolutely.
And so I just stuck to basketball and baseball in my senior year, and enjoyed both of them. To be honest with you, I was a pitcher and a shortstop in baseball, but I found baseball to be boring when I played shortstop when I didn't get any balls hit to me. So basketball was something that was always fast moving. And I was like, you know what, I'm pretty good at this, so maybe I'll just stick to this and we'll see what happens.
I don't know, Al, I think you would have liked to have Byron as a wide receiver.
Man, I tell you what, perfect size. And I tell you what, I know he can run because I've always said that basketball players are the greatest athletes, man, because they continuously running up and down that court and jumping and moving and just showing all kind of athletic skill. And Byron obviously was a great one.
Well, now
Thank you.
Now, Byron, what high school did you go to? Did you go to Inglewood High or?
No. That saying I went to Inglewood High is like saying I played with the Boston Celtics. I went to Morningside High School.
Okay.
And Morningside was big time rivalries, just like the Celtics and the Lakers. I mean, we had that much hate for each other. So both in Inglewood, in the city of Inglewood, but I went to Morningside High School.
And now you get recruited by Arizona State. Any other schools you looked at, and why did you settle to go to Tempe?
Well, I looked at UCLA and I looked at UNLV. Those were my 3 top choices. I just did not want to go back East Coast because it was just too cold, and I was a California boy, so that cold weather wasn't going to sit well with me. And I really was settled going to UCLA because I was a big John Wooden fan and I wanted to play for John Wooden. So when John Wooden retired, I was going into my senior year. That kind of opened the door, but I still, loved the UCLA tradition. But I picked Arizona State because they had a couple of guys that I knew on the team already there, which was Johnny Nash and Sam Williams. Lafayette Lever was there out in Lister. So I knew we had a team that could be, very good for the next couple of years. And the assistant coach who recruited me he just sold me on Arizona State, that it would be the perfect place for me. And I didn't want to get away too far from home. So that was like the perfect spot.
Pac-10 Freshman of the Year. You guys go to the tourney. You make some noise in the tourney. And I think it's your junior year, you make all conference. And you
Yeah.
make the decision to go pro. You just kind of done with college, thought all you could do in college and wanted to move on to the NBA. What was that decision like?
Yeah, pretty much. I was a little pissed off at the Pac-10 at the time because they didn't give me the Player of the Year in the Pac-10. I did everything that year, and I was upset that I didn't get it. Kenny Fields ended up getting Player of the Year, and
Who?
so when that
Who's Kenny Fields?
yeah, exactly, Kenny Fields, yeah, right, from Bourbon Day High School. But so when I had opportunity, and I was talking to obviously a lot of agents was trying to recruit me as far as representation. And everybody's board was telling me I was going to be the first and second guard off the board.
Okay.
So I just thought, I really didn't think I could do any better, staying my senior year and playing one more year and get drafted any higher than I was going to get drafted. And also, I also knew there was a guy named Michael Jordan that was coming out the next year as well. So I said, this is kind of the perfect storm for me. I did extremely well my junior year at Arizona State. And then, Jerry West and those guys came by and watched me practice one day, and I had really nothing. I really didn't think nothing about that, but I knew at that particular time that I was going to be a top pick. So I said, "Hey, let me go ahead and test the waters and see what the NBA has to offer."
Now, interesting enough, though, you were not actually drafted by the Lakers. You were a draft pick of the Clippers in a
Correct.
draft day trade. I believe Norm Nixon went to the Clippers, and the Lakers ended up, I think, got the much better deal. They ended up with you.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's fun. It was a little bit later than draft day because I did get drafted by the Clippers. Couldn't figure out a deal with them. They were being the Clippers. They were trying to pay me what the 10th player that was drafted got, and I was the fourth player. And I was at home one day just working out, and training camp had went past. Preseason was going on, and I get a call from Jerry West. And Jerry West said, "Listen, we've been trying to make a trade for you for the past couple of weeks, and if it doesn't happen today, it's not going to happen. And if it doesn't happen by about 2:00, and I was like, wow. So I told my mom, and this is like 9 a.m. And I said, I got to stick around and wait for this call, to see if I'm going to be a Clipper still or a Laker. And he called me at 2:30, because at 2:00, I'm thinking I'm still a Clipper. So I was going outside to the car to go work out. My mom come running outside telephone at 2:30. And I get on the phone. It's Jerry West, who still to this day calls me young man. He said, young man, congratulations. You are now a Los Angeles Laker. And man, you know what I almost did, AC. I almost, what on myself, man. Because again, that's my team. That's the team that I dreamed about playing for. That was the team that I idolized growing up. That was my favorite team. And to be told at that time that I was going to be a Laker to start my career, I was ecstatic.
That's outstanding. I mean, I think that's great to go to the team that you had loved as a kid, you followed as a kid, and now you get to actually play for them. Now, you got to the team, obviously Magic Johnson's on the team and Kareem's on the team, and they're just building really that dynasty between, I don't know, you guys won you won 3 championships, but the Lakers had won in 80 with Magic as a rookie that year. So, I mean, just how was it to get into Showtime? And first of all, how did Showtime even evolve? Because I mean, what makes Showtime? What type of basketball makes Showtime?
Well, what makes Showtime was Magic, to be honest with you. Magic Johnson made Showtime because he was, he was the creator. He was the flash, coming down the court, no look passes. He had that pizzazz. He had that Hollywood feel, and he was perfect for Los Angeles at that time. So, myself and James and Kareem and all those guys, we just really did the other parts, which was, Showtime wanted to be, as Magic used to say, we wanted to give everybody a show when they came to the game. So let's get out, let's run, let's get dunks. I'm going to throw my passes and my no-look passes, and we're going to see the sky hook. And it just became a phenomenon. And it just snowballed from that time. And then, every now and then you would hear Magic say it's Showtime. And that meant when we walked on the court, we meant business, but we also wanted to give you a show. And that obviously is stuck all these years later. And I think we still consider one of the greatest teams that's ever taken the floor.
Oh, I think so. I think you guys were the most exciting team I'd ever seen in basketball. The interesting thing about the Lakers, from my standpoint, is what really I think made you guys win those win, in those 3 championships was not only the fast break basketball, but playing the Celtics you guys had to morph into a half-court game when you needed it too, right? I mean, you had to play the bump and grind type of game to play the Celtics and the Pistons and those type of teams, correct? Or, I mean...
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a misconception on how tough our team was because of the fact that we were such a fast break, showtime type team. Everybody just thought we were soft, and that was the worst thing you could think about our team. I mean, we had some very tough-minded guys that would play anyway in any style that you wanted to play. If you wanted to be physical, we would play physical. If you wanted to get up and down the floor, we'd play that style. If you wanted to go a half-court game, we had the ultimate weapon in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So we would play that style. So I think the fact that the contracts and styles with us and the Celtics, I think was great. Even though people don't give the Celtics a lot of credit for being a fast break team, they were. They just did it by the pass. We did it with magic dribbling and pushing the rock. And the fact that we just hated them, they hated us. And it just made it made great TV, obviously, and it was great for the NBA because it really, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird saved the NBA. When they came to the NBA wasn't making any money. Most of the teams, I would say 90% of the teams that was in the league was losing money. Wow. And these two cats come on board, and they went to the perfect teams. Larry being a tough, grimy, gritty type guy. He goes to the hard hat Boston Celtics. Magic being a flashy guy. Mm-hmm. He goes to the. So what better rivalry could you have? The history of both franchises. I just thought it just brought back the NBA in a way that I don't think a lot of people understand.
Al, were you a Laker guy or a Celtic guy?
I was always a Laker guy, man. But I wanted to ask Byron, for you personally, transitioning from Arizona State to the NBA, what was the most challenging part of that for you as a player?
For me, AC, I think the physicality, because of the fact that when I was at Arizona State, you didn't see guys that were 6'9", 240. You might run into one of those teams every now and then, but in your conference, you didn't play guys like that. So, being in that stage, being in the NBA and seeing these guys on a day-to-day basis, Magic was a 6'9" point guard. I never saw that before, and he was not only 6'9", about 230. James Worthy was 6'9", 220, but ran like a damn, guard, And so it was just a different brand of basketball, different speed, but just the physicality of being able to grab, hold, beat up each other, every single game and every single night was something that I had to get used to.
Now I want to see if we have any
now the opponent offered that. Excuse me, Les, I'm sorry, but the opponent offered that. What's the difference in today's game? Because it's transitions in comparison to how it was when you played. I mean, because today's game is a little different.
Well, it's a lot different. It's a little bit, and I always use it. They're a little softer, Al. You know what I'm saying? These guys are a little softer. They don't have the luxury of being able to. We went to the paint. You getting hit. It's that simple. And you're gonna get knocked down. Get up. Go shoot your free throws. You can't touch these guys now. So and I know they did that to put more scoring in the game. But a lot of these guys that play in today's game, they couldn't have played back in the 80s and 90s when we played because of the physicality of the game. So the game has changed, from a more of an outside in game than when we played. It was more inside out. And, obviously the 3-pointer is a much more bigger weapon used today than it was back in our day. But the biggest difference is the physicality of the game. These guys, man, I'm telling you, half these guys couldn't have played in the 90s, man. They would have been getting the crap beat out of them, and they were crying, and it's just a different game, like you said.
Well, I think we're going to open it up. Let's see if we've got anything from Joni, our amazing chat girl. By the way, my girlfriend, if anybody doesn't know, Joni's my girlfriend. So, Joni, why don't we go ahead and get a couple questions in for Byron?
Okay, we have like 12 questions already. So
you're already ahead, Byron. We usually have 6 in a show, so we're already double that up. So let's go with question number 1.
Okay, question number 1. You were in the NBA All-Star Weekend 3-point shooting contest in 1987, 88, 89, and 94. Who were you up against, and what was the outcome?
Well, the biggest guy, the biggest opponent I was up against was Larry Bird, the Larry legend. And I remember the first one I was in, Larry walked in the locker room and he just looked around at all of us. And it was myself and Dale Ellis, who's a great shooter, Craig Hodges, great shooter. And he looked at all of us. He said, all right, so which one of y'all coming in second? And we looked at him, man, like, I mean, who the hell you think you are coming in here talking smack like that? And he ended up winning it. I mean, the guy was just one of those guys that, he exuded confidence when he was on that basketball court, and he just didn't think there was any shot that he couldn't make. But he hit his last 4 or 5 to end up winning it that year. And he was always, anytime Larry was in the 3-point contest, you knew he was the guy to beat.
That was a great question. I'm curious, Byron, did you ever win, or how close did you ever come to winning the 3-point contest?
Third place.
Third place, okay.
Third place, yeah.
All right, we got a question here, another one?
We do. One of our viewers, Gary, he asks, what was it like preparing to play against the Celtics in the 1980s playoff games?
Ooh.
It was tough because if you had any type of weakness, they were going to exploit it. But the biggest thing for us was we had to be focused. You had to be focused for 48 minutes because you knew that they weren't going to have any letdowns. They were going to come out and play for 48 minutes, and they were going to play hard. They were going to be physical. They were going to play tough. And we had to make sure that we didn't have any letdowns whatsoever. Anytime you played against a Larry Bird team, you knew you were in for a fight. So the biggest thing was just making sure we were always prepared. Pat Riley was one of the greatest coaches I've ever been around. He went over everything. He made sure that we knew exactly what they were going to run when the game was on the line, who was going to get the ball and where. He knew all their sets. So when they called them out, we knew what they were going to run. So we were always extremely prepared. But it's just one of those things that if you turned your head, if you just stood up out of your defensive stand, if you had just a little bit of lack of focus, they would burn you. So you had to be ready to play for 48 minutes.
That was an excellent question, Gary. Before we go to one more question, I just wanted to ask Byron, because it's legendary that Larry talked a lot of junk. Now, we did have, oh my God.
Charles Oakley.
Charles Oakley on the show last month. And we asked Charles that question. I said, Charles, Larry Bird notorious for talking trash. And he said, Les, he never talked trash to me. And I said, really? He goes, never talked trash to me. I got to ask you, you played against him many, many times. Was he a big trash talker, as they say?
He was the biggest trash talker in the NBA. Now, I can understand him not talking trash to Oak Tree because Oak Tree was knocking people out back in those days. So, and it was only like a $500 or $1,000 fine, and you play the next game. So Oak didn't care. Oak punched him probably. But I'm gonna tell you, Larry Bird was the biggest trash talker in the NBA. He just was he did it quietly. He wasn't one of those guys that was beating his chest and trying to show off everybody. He just would tell you exactly what he was gonna do. I remember one play, it was an out-of-bound play, and we're trying to figure out who's going to go where. And Larry stopped us and said, guys, I'm going to just curl around here. I'm going to catch it in the corner. I'm going to shoot it. Ain't a damn thing y'all can do about it. And that's what he did. He caught it in the corner, shot it, made it. And we just looked at him like, okay, I guess that ain't really trash talking if you can back it up. Because that man would back up his trash talking pretty much every time he played.
Wow. I've heard
it ain't bragging if it's true.
It ain't bragging if it's true. That's right.
I was going to say, well, that's a great. So let's go to another question. I know.
Okay. Sorry. No.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep up. We have a lot of Boston people out there.
A lot of Boston people, Byron,
who have questions about playing with the Celtics. So, who was the best defender against you? John asks.
Ooh.
Best defender against me? Oh, man. I want to say the late, great Dennis Johnson.
Wow.
Dennis was just a great defender, period. I mean, he guarded Magic. He guarded me at times. And Dennis was one of those guys that I had the pleasure and honor of playing against when I was coming out of Arizona State. And that's one thing I didn't tell you last. He would come and play pickup games with us when I was at Arizona State.
Really? Okay.
When I was trying to, if I was going to go pro. And I watched Dennis when he played with Phoenix. So I would go to a lot of the Phoenix Suns games. So I, again, being a guy who loves the game, I would watch him play defense. And I picked up a few things on how he would, really kind of force people one way just so he can tap it and get the steal because he had these long arms. And he tried that with me one day and I went right by him and he grabbed me and he looked at me and said, man, that was a good move. And that's when I really kind of knew. I said, you know what, I can play at the next level. If I can get by DJ, I can play at the next level. But he was one of the best defensive players I've ever been around.
Well, speaking of defensive players, our mutual friend and Al's buddy, Vince, who hooked us up, and I appreciate that. Shout out to you, Vince, said, you're the best defender he's ever seen on Michael Jordan, the legendary Michael Jordan. He said, now Byron locked him up better than any NBA player I ever saw. What's it like to try to defend somebody who is as dynamic as Michael Jordan?
You lose sleep at night when you know you got to guard Michael. I mean, he was just that dynamic. He was that great, had no weaknesses. And I love my man VC, and VC, thanks for the props. But I think that Michael Cooper was the best defensive player I ever seen on MJ, because he was so long and lean, strong, and people don't know how strong Coop was when he played back in the day. And he was quick, he could, athletic. But MJ was he was just a different beast. I mean, he was just one of those guys that, if he wanted to score 40, he probably was going to score 40. So I had some great games against him on the defensive end. But I also had a couple of games where he had 38, 39 points too. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you pick your poison with him. And my whole thing when I played him was to give him enough room to shoot jump shots and just challenge him, because I didn't want to guard him too close because he was just cat quick. And when he went by you, it was going to be a poster on somebody back there if he got to the basket. So my all the time guarding him, AC, was to look, give him some space, almost force him to shoot jump shots, and just challenge him, and you just hope that night he's missing.
I was going to say, you just don't actually, we had a video of you actually dunking on Michael, which was pretty amazing on a fast break play. And I'm like, that's when I realized, I'm like, Byron was not just a jump shooter. You were incredibly versatile. You could take it to the rim. There's alley-oops. I mean, you could take it, dish it out. You could hit the three. You could play off the dribble. I mean, you were an incredibly versatile player.
Well, you know what? I did have some hops back in those days. I'm sorry, guys. Somebody knocking on my door.
Oh, that's okay.
I did have hops back in those days, so I did have to use those as much as possible.
We might have lost Byron. I know that he's evidently someone ringing at the doorbell. At this time of the year, it's probably UPS or FedEx or something. But I don't know, Al. So far, I mean, some pretty amazing stuff, some pretty good stories.
That was my gardener wanting to know if he can go in the backyard because I have these big Akita dogs that he knows will eat them up. So
yeah, I was going to say, good thing you answered that door. I thought it was FedEx
I told
or
him
UPS or something.
with me anyway. I knew he was coming. So sorry about that.
Do we have any questions at all? Do we have more some questions?
We have lots more questions.
I'm going to tell you, Byron, you're blowing this thing up here. So let's go to another question, Joni.
Okay. Michael wants you to settle the debate. Magic or Bird?
Whoa. I know who he's going to take. He's going to take Magic.
Well, you're right. I am. I mean, come on now. I played with the man for 8-9 years. Again, I never seen anything like him when he was coming out. I got the pleasure of watching him at Michigan State, and I was just in awe of a 6'9" point guard. I kept hearing about this guy, Irvin Magic Johnson, and then I got a chance to see him on TV, and I was like, oh my God, I've never seen this. So to have the honor to play with Magic for as many years as I did, and still to this day, we got a great friendship, as I do with Coop and AC and James and Kareem and Kirk and all our Laker guys. Magic Johnson, I would take him every day, and twice on Sundays.
I can't argue with it. Even being a Celtic fan and a Bird guy, I just think that I respect Magic's game so much because he really worked on his game. When he came in, he was not a great shooter, right? That was a weakness of Magic. And then he really stepped up and ended up being a threat from the three-point line later in his career, correct? Right. I mean.
Yeah, and every year he seemed to, evolve. Like you said, he was able to hit the jump shot. Then he got the baby hook. Then he was in the post. So he was, again, most great players, as you guys know, every year they try to get better. And Magic was one of those guys that you saw him in the gym, before practice, after practice, working on things to get better each year. And that's one of the reasons that I still love that guy to this day. He made me a better basketball player.
Byron, tell me this. Tell me about Victor Wembanyama, the rookie who's playing now. I mean, he's 7'4". He looks like he's going to be a great player, but what are your thoughts on him?
AC, I think you're right. I think he's going to be a great player in time. I think he's going to, he's going to get that needed experience that he needs. He's going to, obviously, when he gets older, he's going to add some weight and some bulk and some strength to his game. But I've never seen a guy at 7'4" like that. I mean, Ralph Sampson was the one guy that we saw way back in the day at 7'4", who can make shots, but this guy can make them from three. He puts it on the floor. He can post up. He finishes with both hands, and he's a monster on the defensive end because he's athletic. He's not just 7'4", but he's athletic at 7'4". So I think this guy and the kid at Oklahoma City, Chad, they're going to be the face of this NBA in a while. I think both of those guys are going to be great. But Victor, I think, is going to be a Hall of Famer, barring any injuries and things of that nature, any setbacks. But I think this guy's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and interesting enough, and that's a great point, Al, for bringing that up. I kind of call it the NBA Young Guns. And what I did was I kind of compiled some of these players that, you got LeBron. He's kind of, on his way out. He's still a tremendous basketball player, a top 10 player. But some of the young kids, like Tyrese Halliburton from, the Pacers, what a tremendous player. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, you just talked about it, in Oak City.
Yeah.
DeAndre Fox, tremendous player. Jason Tatum. The NBA is stocked with some tremendous talent under the age of 25. Luka Doncic he lit up the Lakers last night, I think. He's
he did.
Tremendous player. Do these players, how do you see the NBA going now? You're going to see the exodus, in a few years. LeBron's going to be gone. Maybe his son comes in, but LeBron's going to be gone. Some of the older players, Kevin Durant's kind of on the back nine. How do you see the NBA moving forward in the next 3 to 4 years with some of these great young players?
Well, I think sooner or later the NBA game is going to be international. I think you're going to have some. It might even be an NBA international, league. But I think they're getting their toes wet by going overseas and playing these exhibition games, and sometimes they play the regular season games as well. So I think it's going to be international. But I think the NBA is in great hands. I really do. With the young players that are coming up. The one young player that I wish would get his act together is John Morant, because he is such an unbelievable basketball player. He just has to get those issues outside of the court together and understand that, you are something that can be very special in this league. And sometimes you gotta leave, the hood behind you. I grew up in Inglewood. I had to leave that behind me. But I think the league's in great shape. I think Adam Silver has done a terrific job of taking over for David Stern. I think this league will continue to blossom. But the young guns that we have coming up, the future of the NBA, I think is in fantastic hands.
Well, what we're going to do now is, because we have so many questions, and I know you've been so nice and so kind to come on. If you could just hang on with us for about 15 more minutes, we want to get through some more questions, and I want to talk about your coaching career and what you're doing now as well. So let's come back with Byron and our special guest co-host, Al, after these messages.
Forever 24 Fit, Leland's only gym with 24-hour access. Get fit when it's convenient, utilizing Life Fitness, cardio, and weight machines. And for those of you who prefer free weights, there is a free weight area as well. Start your membership today and get on your way to a better you. 6 Happiness. Enjoy fresh Asian cuisine in a relaxed and friendly atmosphere where we believe good times deserve great food. Featuring the best sushi chefs in the Leland area. So come on in, and we guarantee you will be delighted.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. An amazing show so far tonight. We got special guest co-host Al Chester and our amazing guest, 3-time NBA champ, Los Angeles Lakers legend, Byron Scott. And look who's joined us. We have got our own legend. We've got Benny the Book, the King of Carolina, has popped in. Benny, thanks for popping in with us.
Good evening, guys.
Say hi to Byron.
Hey, Benny.
Hey, Byron. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Benny. How you doing?
All right. Living here. You had my your man Jerry West. I'm a big West Virginia fan. My daughter lives in West Virginia. Went to see plenty of games there, and he's the man of West Virginia, Jerry West.
Jerry's a great guy, man. I call him my basketball dad. Every decision I did as far as basketball is concerned, every coaching job I took, I always would call Jerry first and get his opinion on it.
Yeah.
Well, we've got so many more questions. So what I want to do is we'll defer to a couple questions. And then, Byron, I really want to talk about your coaching, your head coaching as well, because I think you're an incredibly underrated head coach. What you did with the Nets, and Benny and I talked about it. We thought, that was unjust what happened, but you really took that team from nothing and it went to back-to-back finals, coach of the year with Charlotte. You coached some great teams and some great players. So before we do that, let's jump and get a couple more questions in. Jordan?
Yes,
Okay.
I agree. So Gary, one of our viewers asks, what do you miss the most, coaching or playing, and why?
Well,
And then John also asks, will you coach again?
Ooh.
all right, I'll answer John's question first. No. These guys are a little too different for me. They can't deal with the discipline and the being held accountable, that which is the things that I really am all about, because that's the way I grew up. You being held accountable for the things you do on the basketball court and being disciplined and coming ready to play every single night. A lot of these guys, they not feeling that. So me coaching again, no. I done decided about 4 years ago that was out. The second question, or the first question, I miss playing more than coaching. I mean, playing. The fact that I had to make sure that I was ready every single game, because my whole attitude, and I think our whole Laker team attitude, was that I'm not letting my teammates down. So I got to be physically and emotionally and mentally prepared every single night to play 48 minutes, because we held each other accountable. So I love playing back in the day because of the competitive nature that I had and the rest of the teammates that I had. And the fact that I just had to worry about me. I just had to make sure I was ready. As a coach, you gotta worry about 12, 13, 14 guys. And you got to understand what makes each one of those guys tick. Some guys you can be hard on. Other guys you got to understand that you can't yell at, because they take it the wrong way. And so the coaching part was so much more difficult than the playing part. But if you have the right mix, if you have the right team, like I did in New Jersey and like I did in New Orleans, with Chris Paul and those guys that I had, those guys wanted to be coached. They wanted to be pushed, and I enjoyed both of those stints I had with those organizations. But I will say the last coaching job with the Lakers, that 2 years I had with Kobe, was probably the most fun 2 years, because we reconnected, and we got on that level of the respect and the admiration that we had for one another, and the love that we had for one another. Because I was his mentor, and he was my rookie when he came in the league. And those 2 years, even though we didn't win a lot of games, I had more fun those last 2 years coaching with him and being around him again than I did all my years of coaching.
And I was actually going to ask that question, because I know your last year in the NBA, you went back to the Lakers, and that was Kobe's rookie year, and then you go and coach him, the late great Kobe.
Correct.
How can you compare and differentiate his game from Michael's game? Because a lot of people see them as being very similar, basically the same size, very athletic, competitive drive, ultra competitive players. Was there one thing that Michael had over Kobe, or Kobe had over Michael? How would you kind of judge both of those players?
Well, like you said, I mean, Kobe is the closest thing to MJ that we'll probably ever see in our lifetime. And not only on the basketball court, but also the way he thought about the game, the way he approached the game. And he was a killer. I mean, he really literally wanted to put his foot on your neck and stomp down. And that was MJ. The biggest difference, between those two is MJ had those huge hands and Kobe didn't. That really was it. I mean, MJ could control that basketball unlike any other, besides Dr. J, when he got around the rim or anywhere close to the rim. Kobe didn't have those size hands like MJ, but mannerisms, you take a look at Kobe's highlight films, you take a look at Jordan's. Kobe pretty much stole everything from MJ. He watched him, he studied him, he did everything basically the way that MJ did it. So there wasn't much difference. And like I said, he is the closest thing that you'll ever see probably on the basketball court. Kobe is to MJ.
All right.
Byron, I agree with that. I think Kobe and Michael are assassins on the basketball court. But for you personally, man, you got a bunch of miles on your body, your legs, your feet. How your body holding up? I'm always teasing folks about I got to warm up to put my clothes on in the morning. How's your body holding up, man?
Well, you know what, AC? My body's holding up well, man. I've had one surgery in my lifetime. It was years after I retired. I had a torn meniscus. That's it. And, so my body's held up well. Even at 62 years old, I still get up every morning. I go work out 4 or 5 days a week, still lifting weights, still doing cardio. So my body is held up really well. And I'm just kind of wondering when it is going to break down on me and I'm going to get out of bed days where I can't move, but as of right now, man, I mean, like I said, knock on wood, I mean, it's held up extremely well for me.
Well,
That's great, man. Good for you.
I'll tell you one thing,
You're
he's in a lot
blessed.
better shape than Benny and I.
I looked at Byron's stats when the 3 years that they won the championships. He missed 3 games in 3 years.
That's
he
incredible.
averaged 33 minutes. Guys miss 3 games in a week. They want to take off. They're tired. You know, I got to go see my mother, or it's just like it's a different game. I appreciate that answer you gave that you couldn't coach the guys nowadays because
I couldn't do it. I mean, just load management stuff and all this stuff. You know, I'm like, what the hell is load management, man? We took pride in playing or trying to play 82 games.
Right.
My goal was to play every single night, you know, and I don't get where these guys want to take 4 or 5 games off or 10 games. I just don't understand it, but you still want to get paid, you know, but I think, again, you're cheating the fans, you know, and that's the one thing that I loved about Kobe his last year. Cause I mean, we were in Detroit and this man had the flu. And I said, KB, you got to sit down tonight. He said, Coach, I can't. I said, what do you mean you can't? He said, I can't. These people, I only come to Detroit one time. Yeah. These people paid to see me play. It's my last time ever in Detroit. I got to at least go out there and play. And that's what he did. I mean, he took it serious about playing every single night that you can play. So I don't get this load management and all this crap. And these guys are still getting hurt now more than we did back then.
Right.
So I don't.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. I was going to ask you about the whole load management. I asked Charles Oakley as well. I said, oh, what about this? He goes, what is load management? He goes, you play. You're getting paid to play. And I asked him the same question. I said, you've got a family out there of 4 that is going to spend an absorbent amount of money to come in and play, you know, and watch the game. I mean, they have to take off. Maybe the guy has to take off time to go see his favorite player, and he shows up, and the players he wants to see aren't playing. I mean, how in the world does he feel? And Charles said, listen, they're paid to play the game. They're getting paid way more money than we were. At least play 95% of the games. That was his answer to me.
Yeah, I know, and I agree 110% with him. And like you said, a family of 4 to go to an NBA game, you know how much that costs?
Oh my God.
And we're not just talking about the tickets. We're talking about the concession stands, the parking. You know, the kids might want a souvenir. I mean, it's super expensive to go to an NBA game, and then your favorite player doesn't play because he's load management that night. I don't get it.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Joni, what do we got? We got a couple more?
We do. It's hard to cull through all of these and figure out which one. I know. I'm trying. Okay. This is an interesting question from one of our viewers, John. What can you say about the players being empowered to challenge refs, demand coaching changes, etc.?
You know what? I think it's crazy. Again, you got the prisoners running the asylum in most cases like this. You know, players are paid to be players. They're not paid to be management. You know, so when you get to the point where players have that type of authority, then again, like I said, you got the prisoners running the asylum, and I think it's crazy. So I've always been taught that, you know, when you play the game of basketball or any sport, you know, there are people above you. There's general managers, there's presidents or vice presidents, and there's the owners. And those are the people that make the decisions. Your job is to play and win. And that's the bottom line. You shouldn't have any control over who gets traded, who you draft as a free agent, or who you sign as a free agent, who you draft. You should just play. And that's just my take on it. And again, that might be a little old school, but that's what we were paid to do was to play, not to be an owner, not to be a GM. We were paid to play. And the guys nowadays, they cry so much more than we did way back in the day. You know, we might yell at an official once or twice about a bad call that we felt he missed. But these guys, you know, and I love Luka Doncic. We just talked about how great he did last night against the Lakers, but the guy almost cries every play.
I agree 100%.
And as a fan, I'm looking at how talented you are and how good you are as a basketball player. And it makes me sick to my stomach sometimes to watch how some of these guys complain. Because I'll be watching on TV and I'm looking at the guy, he's complaining about he got fouled. And I'm looking at the game, I'm going, you didn't get touched. Why are you complaining? You know, or you barely got touched. Why are you complaining? So it's just something that I think that's the one thing I think that's getting a little out of hand with the NBA and probably with sports in general, is that a lot of the players, and I'm all about players getting as much money as they can, but I think we're giving them a little bit too much power.
I have a question for you. Do you
Byron.
think this year, just real quick, Ben, do you think we have a chance of seeing this year final a rebirth of that massive rivalry with you guys in the Celtics in the 80s? The Celtics is everyone's pick. Oakley picked them to win the whole thing this year. Lakers are kind of bouncing back a little bit. They won that in-season tournament in the NBA.
Right.
Do you think that there's a chance that the Lakers in the West can get by Denver and maybe Golden State picks up their game? I'm not sure. Or the Celtics can get by the 76ers. Is there a chance for them to meet and rekindle that rivalry?
Oh, I think so. I think it is absolutely a chance. The Lakers, like you said, Denver, being the defending champions, they're not going anywhere. As long as you got Joker and you got Murray, they're not going anywhere. I mean, they got a great basketball team. They got a player who's an MVP, pick almost every year. If he's not the MVP, he's up there in Joker. And he's all about team and all about winning. I think the Lakers have a chance in the West, but I'm kind of the same. I'm picking Boston. I thought when they got the True Holiday deal, I thought that put them right there at the favorite to win the NBA Finals. But I would love to see the Celtics and the Lakers in another NBA Finals, and that would decide who has the most wins in the NBA history of titles. Both tied at 17 right now. So I think that would be. I think the NBA would love to see that. I think Adam Silver would love that, and obviously the ratings and everybody else would love to see that matchup.
Well, you're making everyone from Boston pretty happy.
I was going to sneak one in on you. Played the game, you've coached the game. Top 5 purest shooters. The object of the game is to put the ball in the hoop. The purest shooters that you played with against.
Ooh, that I played against? Purest shooters?
During your era. Your era.
My era, Reggie Miller, Ray Allen. Those two just come right out the top of my head. Oh my God, that's a tough one, man. Because you said again, going back in my era, wow, Del Ellis, just a great, great shooter. I know I'm missing probably a few guys, and then in my era, I'm gonna put me up there as well. I'm not gonna discount what I did, back in the day, because I had a reporter in Memphis. And I was telling him, I said, you guys talk about all these great shooters and they're shooting 30-something% from the field or 41% from the field. And the reporter looked at me and said, well, what did you shoot? I said, 49. He said, no, I mean for a career. I said, yeah, 49. And he said, no. I said, we'll go look it up. And so that night he comes back to the arena. He said, man, you did shoot 40. I said, man, I'm telling you what I know, not what I think. I'm telling you, I was a great shooter. Now, if we're talking about other guys that I'm watching now, Steph Curry is probably the greatest shooter I've ever seen. I mean, where he shoots the ball sometimes, off the dribble, off the catch. But a name that doesn't get mentioned enough is a guy named Peja Stojakovic, who could just flat out shoot the ball as well. Okay. So a lot of great shooters, in the 80s and the 90s. But, when I look at great shooters now, man, Steph Curry just jumps off the chart.
Yeah, his range is unlimited, Byron. I mean, he'll step across the half-court line and let it fly.
Well, I've always said you got to guard him. You got to start guarding him 3/4 court, because once he get over half court, he might let it go. So you can't wait at half court and pick him up, because, like you just said, he might take one dribble over half court and shoot it, and it's effortless. He's not throwing it. I mean, the guy is just an unbelievable shooter.
And it's a guy that did not have one Division I scholarship coming out of high school. He went to Davidson and built himself into. That's what I really love about Steph. A lot of people don't. I love it. But the fact that he's not an athletic freak, right? He's not a guy that is going to jump 48 inches off the ground. He's not super strong. He's not real tall. He's not real big. He just gets to the open space. He gets his shot. He's like he's a tremendous athlete, no doubt about it, but he's not a freaky athlete. But he's turned himself into arguably one of the top 5 greatest players of all time.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start mentioning him when you talk about greatest players of all time, because, I mean, you got to look at his resume. I mean, he got 4 NBA titles. He's already considered one of the greatest shooters of all time. I think he's league leader or NBA history leader in 3-pointers. I mean, the guy's phenomenal, and he's such a great guy off the court as well. So, you take all that in consideration. You got to look at him and say, man, if he's not on the top 5 list of greatest of all times, he's probably in that second tier, being top 10 for sure.
Well, we are going to take 2 more questions from our viewers. So let's pick out 2 real good ones for Byron.
All right. Two really good ones. There are so many.
And then Byron's going to tell us what movie he would pick for best sports movie ever.
Oh, yeah.
So let's go with two questions.
Okay. Kevin asks, what are your thoughts on the in-season tournament? Good for players or for the fans?
Well, if you're a fan of NBA basketball, it's great for the fans because again they get to see some more basketball. Not a lot more, but they also get to see the fact that you're playing for a different a different championship. That in season tournament. For the players, $500,000 if you win it is an incentive enough, to be liking the tournament and the way it went. I think the tournament was a hit. It looked like a hit to me in Vegas. That all went well. I think it was something that's a great idea when you think about it. But me as a basketball purist, I didn't really, gravitate to it, to be honest with you. I was just kind of like, okay, well, I don't pay that much attention because I'd rather win an NBA championship instead of an in-season tournament, So I think it's great for the fans, the players. Obviously, the incentive is the money. So it's great for them, because you got a lot of guys in this league, especially the team that just won it, the Lakers. You got guys on that team that probably don't make but about $700,000 to $800,000. You get a $500,000 bonus basically for winning that tournament. That helps you out big time. So from the player standpoint, I'm sure they enjoyed it. I did say to myself, I said, I wish they had a in-season tournament, but then again, it would have been us in Boston anyway. So,
I agree. I agree.
It'd been us in Boston anyway. It'd been a.
Les, I have a question for
Go ahead.
Byron about his coaching
One of
career.
the things.
Go ahead, Book.
All right. When you got hired for the Cleveland Cavalier job, did you know LeBron was leaving? And if you knew that, would you have took the job?
If I knew that, I'll answer that second part first. If I knew that, I wouldn't have took the job. But I knew that there was a good possibility that he could come back. Now, I got another crazy story for you guys, is that when I took that job, he was still trying to make up his mind. Mm-hmm. And I was in one of our meetings with the general manager, who was Chris Grant at the time, and he said, "Nah, he's not leaving." Nobody in Cleveland thought he was leaving. And I said, "Well, I could find out." He said, "How?" I said, I'm going to call somebody. And the person I called was Chris Paul, one of his closest friends. And I called Chris Paul and I said, "CP, tell me right now, is LeBron coming or staying? Coming or going?" He said, "Coach, give me 5 minutes. I'll call you back." He called me back 5 minutes later. Now, I had left the room when I did this call. He called me back. He said, "Coach, he's gone."
Whoa.
I said, "Okay." So I go back in the room with the general manager and our assistant GM. And they said, "So what you find out?" I said, "He's gone." And they said, "Nah, he ain't going nowhere." So, yeah. So when they got the news, that night they were shocked. Yeah. And unlike, when I told them that he was gone, what we should have done is talk to Miami right then and said, "Let's do a trade, with you guys so we can get some draft picks, get some players back." Right. Sure. Instead, we got nothing. Yeah. And so now the cupboard's bare. So when I took the job, I said, okay, if he stays, I got a chance to win a championship with this guy. If he goes, I got a chance to rebuild. Mm-hmm. And when Chris Paul told me he was gone, he was gone.
Wow. That's a good question, Ben. We got a little scoop on that one, huh?
Yeah.
Well, let's go to one more. Let's go to our last. How many questions do we have, Joni?
We've got several more, actually. So
Byron
I don't know if we can.
Midnight, and,
I know
and
it.
We can't go that long. So let's pick out two more questions.
Two more. Okay. Two more. Stu asks, what was it like when the clock hit triple zeros in the Boston Garden and you beat Boston?
Oh, man. Oh, Byron right here.
Great question. Great question. I tell you what, it was like a weight lifted off of our backs because no Laker team have ever beaten the Celtics in a 7-game series. So that win in the Garden and running back to the locker room and celebrating, that win was for Jerry West. That win was for Elgin Baylor. That win was for Wilt Chamberlain, Gail Goodrich, all those guys who had never beaten the Celtics. We basically got that monkey off of their back. But it was so gratifying. And I remember being driven to the airport, by my dad, because I was single. So my dad would always take me to the airport and pick me up. And my dad, going into game 6, he said, "What do you think?" We're driving. And before we get to the airport, I said, "Oh, we're going to win this in 6. And he just looked at me and said, "Okay." And then, when he picked me up after we won it, he said, you said that with so much confidence. He said, how did you know? I said, because I knew everybody on our team. We talked about going in there and winning in game 6, and we were able to accomplish that. So it was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had in sports, winning a championship, number one, but to beat the Celtics in Boston, that was fantastic.
Now, Byron, I have to say, from the Boston fans, we say that if Kevin McHale was healthy, he would have blocked the hook shot by Magic that won the game.
Nah, you know what? I know y'all feel that way. I know y'all feel that way and all that, but no. The baby hook was on fire at that particular time, and Magic had, he had his eyes set because of the free throws he missed the year before.
Exactly.
So when Kevin switched on him, I knew he wasn't passing. I was like, he's taking him. And, that was kind of his redemption. And, to knock that down and give us that W, that was very gratifying.
Now, before we go to the last question, I just want to throw a couple of names at you that you played against. It's like a word association type thing. We've never done this, but just curious to know maybe 1 or 2 words on a player that you played against or played with. And you kind of tell me what comes to mind when I say James Worthy.
Just awesome. Again, I've never seen a 6'9" guy who could run like that, finish like that. James was just awesome.
I agree. What a great wingman. How about Isaiah Thomas?
Quiet assassin. He had that baby face and that little smile, but Isaiah was also one of those guys. He wanted to tear your heart out. He was a quiet assassin.
Dominique.
Human highlight film. I mean, the name was perfect for him. He was a human highlight film.
In the late, great Kobe.
An assassin. Not a silent one, just a pure assassin.
All right. That's, we'd never done that before. I was just curious to see what your take would be on that. But let's go to the last question. This is going to be it for Byron tonight. So last question, let's make it a doozy.
A doozy. Okay. Here's an interesting one from Kevin. From a LA Lakers perspective, was there respect for Jack Nicholson as a fan?
Wow.
Was there respect? Was that the question?
Yeah, was there respect for Jack Nicholson as a fan?
Oh, we love Jack. Jack was one of the biggest, Lakers supporters. He would go to the Boston Garden, and cheer us on. We matter of fact, we had our, parties when we won championships that was strictly just Lakers. The players, the wives, coaches, and Jack would always show up. So he was definitely loved and respected by all of us that played with the Lakers.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate so many, we could go on for an hour. But we appreciate all the viewers with the questions. They were great questions. So, and thank you for Byron for sitting here. Here's some accomplishments by number 4, Byron Scott. What a tremendous career you had. And I think a very underrated head coach. I thought you were a great head coach. So
well, thank you.
Before we get you out, you have to pick the best movie. This is going to be the Byron Scott one. Now, you might not have seen all these movies, but this is who the fans voted on for the Final 4.
Okay.
So you've got Rocky, the original Rocky, not Rocky 27. You've got Hoosiers. You've got Field of Dreams, and you have the sentimental favorite Brian's Song.
Oh man, yeah. You know what? I had Hoosiers already in my mind when you even told me about. That we were going to be doing this at the end of the show. I had already Hoosiers in my mind, but Brian's Song, watching that movie on a number of occasions, and James Caan and Billy D. Williams, and knowing Gale Sayers and all that, to me, that's probably the greatest sports movie I've ever seen, because that's the only one out of all those that made me cry. That movie was just unbelievable. So I'm gonna go with Brian's Song.
You know something? Can we just close the voting? I agree with Byron. Let's just go with Brian's Song. Can we just do that? And Byron, before we let you go, what are you doing now? What's Byron Scott doing now?
Man, Byron Scott is enjoying life. I got 5 companies that I've been heavily involved in. One is in New Jersey. One is two of them are in New Jersey, to be honest with you. One's in Plainfield. And then my wife, who's a registered nurse, she got me to help her open up a new med spa because that's what she had been doing when I met her. And then she sold the company to this big company. And then she decided she didn't want to do it anymore. And then about a year ago, she decided she wanted to do it again. So been helping her get that off the ground. She opened up November 1st of this year. It's going really well, and she's excited about it. But just staying busy being an entrepreneur and, sticking my hand in these little businesses that I've been involved in. I got a great partner that I've known for 20 years that I met at the gym, who's got me involved in a bunch of these businesses because I've been, just holding on to his coattail, learning about the business world. And it's been great. I've been enjoying it. But I do have something that you guys, I want to take a look at in 2024 that will be coming out. It's called they're NBA bags. And I got them licensed by the NBA. Matter of fact, They told me I'm the first to get a licensing agreement to sell tote bags, handbags, computer bags with the NBA. And they'll be in 2024 in every NBA store, on every arena. So I'm looking for those to do really well. And I'm very excited about that. Been working on that for about 3 years and it's starting to come to fruition. So I'm excited about that. That's my latest project.
Get us the info on that, Byron, and we'll pop that on every show we run.
Les, you got it. I will definitely do that.
All right. And with your help, we're getting a lot more viewership, so I appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for taking time to do this. I know it was kind of a last-minute thing. Our boy Vince hooked us up, and I really, really do appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories in basketball, your career. I've admired you. I know you're a Laker guy. I'm a Celtic guy. You're a tremendous basketball player and a tremendous person, so I really appreciate it. And we would love to have you come back. I don't want to put the pressure on you now, but maybe talk NBA Finals or March Madness. I'd love to have you do a little analysis on March Madness.
I would love to do that, Les. You got my number. Let me know. I would love to do it. AC, a pleasure, my brother. Good seeing you. Take care of yourself.
Hey, you're a pro man and a legend.
Well, thank you. Benny the Bookmaker, keep doing what you're doing, my man.
Pleasure talking with you. Take
care, Byron. Have a great week. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
You guys as well. Thank you
so much. Happy holidays, Byron.
Take care, Byron. Okay, that was outstanding. Wow, blown away. Outstanding. Byron Scott, legend, coming on Swartz Talkin Sports and spending some time with us. So we really do appreciate it. And again, obviously, we've got our special guest co-host, Al Chester, my man. So I appreciate Al. Al, what we're going to do now is we're going to stay with it. And you've got a big game this week, okay? You've got your Florida A&M Rattlers in the Celebration Bowl against the Howard Bison. Benny's going to pick this game, by the way. The book is going to pick it. He better pick the right team. 12 o'clock game, ABC? There we go. ABC. Here we go. Check it out.
12 o'clock ABC.
Look at that. Tony does it again.
12 o'clock ABC in Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta,
Georgia. Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Those Rattlers are going to be taking the bites out of those Bisons, I'll tell you right now.
I like it. I know Al likes that. So, Al, what are we going to be looking for in this game? Obviously, I think Florida A&M's a much higher rated team. I think overall talent-wise, the Rattlers have it all over. Howard, who wasn't even supposed to be in this position, they upset NC Central. So are you expecting a comfortable win, or do you think Howard can keep this thing close?
Well, you know what, Les? Every time you play a game, anything can happen. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do. Yeah. And they're a 6-5 team. They're 4-1 in the MEAC. They upset the North Carolina Central team, who are the defending national champs. But they got a great running game, man. They got a nice little quarterback who can make things happen. But they got big people in the trenches on the offensive line and the defensive line. They run the football very well. Okay. So I'm not taking nobody for granted. I kill a mosquito with an axe. But the Rattlers going to come out. I think we hit our stride the last couple of weeks. We got a very potent offense, and we got probably the number one defense in the country in FCS football right now. So I'm expecting a great game. I'm not going to predict the score, but I'm going to predict a win for the Rattlers.
All right. Well, let's see. Al's got to be good, and he's right. I think the Rattlers win this thing, and I think they win it comfortably. Benny, what does the book say about this game?
I think the Rattlers win this very comfortably. I think.
Give me a score, Ben.
38-13. 38-13.
Whoa, you think they're going to take the Bison behind the woodshed in this one, huh?
I took I took a little look at the defensive. They got a lot of defensive stars. Florida A&M, the Rattlers are very good on defense. Al's right. They do. The Howard does have some big offensive linemen, and they're gonna put their stock into running the ball. And if the Rattlers stop the run, they're not going to keep up. Howard's not going to keep up with the Rattlers. And
I tell you what, one of their running backs is Edrin James' son.
Oh.
Edrin James, who played with the Colts.
Yeah.
His son is one of the running backs for Howard.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Nice.
All right, we might have to corral him a little bit, Benny.
Yeah. How did Howard get him away from Miami?
Exactly.
I have no idea, man, but they got a great player. And between the three backs, they pushing the ball down the field pretty good. But I got to say now, the Rattlers have running backs by committee as well. And I always tease about how big our guys are. We've got about 900 pounds of running backs in three guys. We got running backs by committee, but we can also air that thing out. And shotgun Willie Simmons, he likes to throw that football, man, and I expect him to do just that.
I agree. I think Moose is going to have a big game. I really do. I think he's going to throw the ball deep. I think Howard's susceptible to the long pass, and I like Moose to throw in for 250 and a couple of scores. And I don't think it's going to be a blowout to that proportion, but I like A&M winning this game. I think 31-17. That's my prediction.
I think they should bring Al in to talk to the team a few minutes before the game and tell them.
Al's going to be on the broadcast, by the way. Al, before I let you go, I've got to say a personal thanks for the shout out. Al's the game for the SWAC championship against Prairie View A&M. Al actually gave a shout out twice to Swartz Talkin Sports, and I'm sitting there in my living room listening to it. I'm like, oh my God, he's talking about the show. So I got to say thank you so much for that. That was awesome.
Roger that. Roger that.
We expect another one Saturday.
Man. It's been a great time.
Yep.
You can count on it.
Good luck Saturday, Al.
Well, listen.
Go Rattlers, man. Go Rattlers.
We actually, Al, you're going to be back after the first of the year. We're going to have you as a guest co-host again. I know you said you do it, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, listen.
Always a pleasure, Al.
I wish you the best of luck this Saturday with the broadcast. Florida A&M is going to win that thing, and we wish you and your family a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holiday.
And all the same to you guys. You guys be safe, man, and we'll talk before we'll talk before the holidays.
You got it,
Al.
Al.
Take care.
Thanks so much. We'll be right back with Benny the Book's picks after this.
Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition, Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz, joined by Benny the Book, the King of Carolina. Benny, what a show.
What a show, boy. I'll tell you, Byron. Been around a lot of great players. He was a great player himself. It was a pleasure listening to his stories, and I wish we had more time. I was
going to say we could have gone for 2 hours. I loved his candidness, on today's athletes and today's players, and in coaching, and why he wouldn't coach today's players in the game then versus now.
After looking at his stats, like I couldn't believe, like, he played 82 games, like 3 years, and 3 championships, missing 3 games. I said, he wouldn't want to coach the guys today.
He's just an impressive guy.
I knew that was
an impressive
his answer.
Let's get to the picks, because my God, we've been on here a long time, and I want to go to Six Happiness after this. That might be closed. It might be so late, but
I'm going to meet you there.
Oh, you're going to meet me there?
Yeah, I'm going to meet you
there.
All
right, great. We're going to Six Happiness. Joni. We're gonna meet the book there. So maybe producer Tony would join us as well. Maybe. So we got a thumbs up there. But let's go to the picks, Ben, this week. So last week you took it on the chin.
Had a rough week.
It's so hard to predict games nowadays.
I mean, Miami loses to Tennessee. There's 6 teams in the AFC that are 7-6. I mean, anybody could win.
Yeah.
The Chiefs look like they were out of it for the home field advantage. Miami losing at home, right? They're right back in it now. Anybody could get. Jacksonville goes and loses. It's up and down.
Benny, Buffalo looked like they were out of it, and all of a sudden they win a big game. And if they take Dallas at home, they beat 2 of the best teams in the league. They're back into it.
Oh, let me tell you something. Watching them the other day, if they make it into the playoffs, beware. That's a good.
I was going to say they get hot
very well. They got an offense. They could score.
Yeah.
They got so I would be very weary of Buffalo if they get into the playoffs.
Well, let's get to this week's picks. I know you got 4 big games for us this week, and you're feeling pretty confident this week. So let's hit up game number 1. And you like all the home teams this week, I just noticed. So
yeah, there was one game that I saw today. 2 defensive players were out of the game, but I still would go with the team that I picked.
All right, so let's start off. Let's go with game number 1.
We have the Cincinnati Bengals laying a 3.5 against the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings got quarterback problems. They looked like they were going to make a push to the playoffs. Cincinnati looked like they were gone. Joe Burrows is gone.
Right.
This guy comes in. He's played
Jake Browning, the Washington Husky legend.
Right. 3 spectacular games. I like the Cincinnati Bengals at home.
Now, I'm curious, in the Minnesota game, is Nick Mullins now the starting quarterback? I know they pulled dogs.
Nick Mullins was named the starting quarterback.
Okay. So you like the Bengals, 3.5. Let's go to game number 2.
Did I put
you got Cleveland
Browns?
I think.
Cleveland Browns laying 3. They're the team. 2 of their defensive corner put on the IR, hamstring.
Rose not going to like this pick, Benny. You're picking against her Bears.
Yeah, well, the Bears have been playing very well.
3 out of 4 wins.
Yeah, well, wait till he gets chased by those defensive ends.
That's
and you got the rebirth of Joe Flacco.
I know.
What was he doing a week ago?
311 yards, 3 touchdowns. They pull him, off the couch at his house there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's gonna try to lead the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs. Incredible.
Next week you're gonna see Tom Brady playing for somebody.
No. Cleveland's gonna If Flacco doesn't work, they're gonna pull Brian Sipe out of retirement.
Brian Sipe, yes.
But, so you like Cleveland?
Cleveland's got a great defense, even though they're missing 2 guys.
Yep.
The Bears have been playing good. This is for the playoffs, so I like the Cleveland Browns.
You like the Browns. Okay, so, all right, so Benny likes the Ohio teams. You like Cincy and Cleveland. All right, you got New Orleans against your New York Football Giants.
Yeah, I know. I'm picking the New Orleans Saints laying a 4.5 against Tommy Cutlet's DeVito over there.
Tommy DeVito. He's playing well.
He is playing well, very decisive. If he sees it's not there, he's taking off. I think New Orleans got a pretty good defense. So the Giants, they scored last week because they ran for 200 yards. I don't think they're going to be able to run for 200 yards this week. So I'm going to go with New Orleans and David Carr and
Derek David's his brother.
His brother or whatever his father.
You're going to get one of the cars. He's going to drive the Saints to a win over the Giants. And then the last game.
Indianapolis. Minus the 3 against Pittsburgh. Another team, no quarterback. Pittsburgh, they look like they were going to make a playoff run, and the wheels have fallen off the wagon.
They lost to the Patriots last week, and Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, I like the Colts. And the Colts, another team, they didn't have a quarterback at the beginning of the year, and look who shows up.
Gardner Minshew II.
Yep.
So now in that Pittsburgh
Colts
game, I think J.T. Watt is probable. He's in concussion protocol, and the other defensive end, Alex Highsmith, is actually in concussion protocol as well. So they might be missing both defensive ends in this game. So You like
Colts-
Cincy,
Colts-
Cleveland, the Saints, and the Colts.
So let's hope we could reverse the trend this week.
Let's go 4-0 this week. Then you'll be on top next week when we come back. So, listen, I'll see you in a few minutes, right? But at our favorite watering hole. So thank you for being on the show tonight, Benny. A great show.
It was a pleasure.
Great guest. This was really a good one.
Very, very, very good.
All
Really,
right,
really
well-
a lot of great information.
Well, listen,
So I'll see you next week then.
absolutely best of luck on your picks this week.
Yeah.
That's Benny the Book, and we'll be right back with the wrap after this.
Millie's Ice Cream Shop, a full-service store in the Waterford Shopping Plaza of Leland, offering an array of tasty treats, including both hard and soft ice cream in a variety of flavors and delectable combinations to appeal to even the discerning palate, assured to put a big smile on everyone's face. Stop by today to enjoy your satisfying experience.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I am Les Swartz, talking sports. Anyway, just want to thank everybody for joining today, all the viewers out there for making this show fantastic. What an outstanding show. And special shout out to Vince Coleman for really hooking this whole thing up and getting me in touch with Byron Scott. And obviously, we've got Al, who's going to be a recurring guest co-host. Chester's fantastic. So again, thank you, Vince. I hope you won your match today, your 36-hole match. So I hope you did well. Again, please hit the subscribe button. All you viewers that are new to the channel and have just checked it out, please hit that subscribe button. Help us grow. We picked up a lot of people in the last couple of days. So let's keep that momentum moving forward. As always, we can be heard on Google Podcast as well as Spotify. So if you can't catch us, you can always listen to us. So again, thank you very much. Voting is open until next Wednesday when we got another big special show, and I'm going to tease that right now, but please get on the comment section. Producer Tony's going to have a link there so you can vote on your favorite movies. We're down to the final 4. I just say we close it right now when we do what Byron Scott said, which is Brian's song. That's going to be my pick. I hope it's everyone's pick. So, but it's all up to you, the viewers. So you tell us what is the best sports movie for Swartz Talkin Sports. Next Wednesday, we've got another biggie, 7 o'clock. We got live chat. We got Joni the Chat Girl. And for you Chicago Bears fans, we have legendary quarterback Jim McMahon, the man who quarterbacked the Bears to the 85 Super Bowl, the punky QB known as McMahon. And we might even have another special guest with the Chicago Bears who played with the Bears as well. And we might have 2 of them on, but definitely Jim McMahon will be here live next Wednesday, the 20th at 7 p.m. It's a live chat show. So we'll be hitting shorts the entire week till the show. So please check that out. It should be a really good one. Again, I want to thank my guests, Byron Scott, my special guest chat co-host, Al Chester, Benny the Book, the King of Carolina, my amazing girlfriend, Joni the Chat Girl, and our producer, Tony the Tiger Smeraldi. We'll see you next week on Swartz Talkin Sports. Have a great week, everyone.